Hello, my name is Martin Kawagambe from CinemaUG, and we are trying to look back at 2021 in the Ugandan film industry. What went right, what went wrong, the challenges the industry faced, the achievements in the film industry by individual filmmakers. With that, we have decided to host a renowned journalist who has covered the Ugandan film industry more than anyone, and he happens to have been some of the judges on the festivals we have attended. He needs no introduction. Let's dive in.
My name is Andrew Kaggwa. I'm a journalist, an arts and culture journalist. Though I've had a very good working relationship with the film industry, just like I work with the music industry. So with the film industry, I've been a judge, I've been a critic, I've proofread people's scripts. I think I'm reading about 4 scripts at the moment. Yeah, so basically that's it. I've been a judge at very many festivals. 2021 was epic. Yeah, so 2021 was epic. Jeez. One, COVID did not have any impact on the film industry. Like filmmakers and enthusiasts usually want to go out and say things like COVID 2020, COVID affected us and we failed to do things. But let's face it, without COVID, we are not going to do those things. I mean, before COVID happened, we were not taking our films to the cinemas because we were afraid there were no people that were going to come and see them. So COVID happened and we still didn't take films to the cinemas. People still made films for the festival, like they always did. Maybe you could say they failed to have the Kwanjula type of premieres where family and friends show up and then you get to ask your family and friends to pay you money again in form of fundraising. That did not get to happen. But in a financial sense of talking about film, money lost, jobs lost, 2020, like COVID had nothing on the film industry. One, many of our very good filmmakers are making it big as maybe they shoot Kwanjula for someone, they shoot Mikolo Nambaga, and then there are those who are shooting adverts. Those ones did not stop working at all. And many of our actors had part-time jobs where they continued doing those part-time jobs. In fact, many of them were investing in film by bringing themselves to the set, paying for their own costume and everything. So 2021 and 2020 might have been that time when they did not shoot anything, but still did not have to invest in someone's production by paying for their own things to be in a film. So when we are talking in a sense of how did this affect the industry, in the financial sense of it, it did not affect it. But when we want to sound like, we were a sector that was also hit, we shall say, we had all these films that were premiering. First, I only think it was The Girl in the Old Jumper that was supposed to come out on April 18th, 2020. That was affected because there was a lot of anticipation for that film. And as you could remember, the director had put in a lot to market this film. There were billboards everywhere. And people were genuinely interested in it. People knew about it. What I could say is, one, 2020 had its advantages for the film industry. One, we stayed at home for a very long time, and when we were home, the only thing we were watching was, content, we were consuming content, and Ugandans were not they were not in that conversation. Like, we were watching all these things from elsewhere, Ugandans were not in the narrative. But I know for a fact that by the time we went into the COVID situation, MultiChoice was working on creating a Ugandan channel. Like, it was a conversation that had been around for some time, like a Ugandan channel with top-notch content. Because we had Power Magic and much as it was catching on, people had issues with it. People had issues with the quality of content. And then there are those that felt like MultiChoice was yet to support the industry the way they were supporting the Kenyan. Because remember, in Kenya, they were commissioning content. They were not even just commissioning TV shows, they were commissioning movies, reality shows, documentary kind of shows. So in Uganda, we felt like they were not doing that. But then COVID happened. And the worst thing that can happen to you when you pay TV, like you want people to watch you a lot, but then when people watch you a lot, they start seeing gaps. So it happened. People started noticing that some shows are repeated. Like you could not see that when you're waking up, you go work, you come back, watch the 2 shows you like, you go sleep. You could not see that. But then people started seeing some shows are repeated. Like, okay, this show has been repeated about 3 times in a week. People started seeing all these things, and then they started complaining, which was the perfect time for them to work with the industry. And as you could see, they brought their money. This is not just even little money. Like they brought a lot of money and poured it into the industry. And the result was Mama and Me, Sanyu, Prestige, Story Yange. There is another wedding. There's a wedding show that they did about it's a reality show. Or there's even I think Date My Family. So they did all these things. All these things were part of the package when they were trying to create local content. Now, those are advantages of us staying home, and that's what made 2021 bright. But it also came with a lot of baggage. One, every actor gets hired. Okay, not everyone, but many of the actors get hired. Many of them are on Prestige. Prestige has a very big cast. And then others are on Sanyu. Sanyu has a very big cast. So the crew gets hired. Even people, where people are getting equipment from, there is like your lights are hired out. You have nothing. Everything has been hired out. So one, that's where the disadvantages came from. Like we immediately noticed like we are not rich as we thought we were. Like you see those days we used to complain like Queen of Kato should have hired us. We have the manpower to do this. And now just two productions came and swept the entire industry. And because I know most shows have been commissioned as the year went on, and people are struggling to even get a cinematographer on set. But now just imagine there is a third one coming, and now there are films that are being made. So of the same standard. So they are still sweeping. So so that's when you notice like, geez, we actually do not have teams. Like everything we thought we had in plenty, the actors we thought we had in plenty, the directors we thought we had, the crew we thought we had. Then when it came to the equipment, there is a director I was talking to who told me like, yeah, I went to Patrick and I was like, I'll need a camera like this. So he gave it to me. I used it. When the weekend started, I was like, okay, I shouldn't leave this around because it won't be working. I took it back to him. Think I'll come back for it on Monday. When I went back on Monday, it had already gone out, and the person that had taken it had paid for it for a month. Like so at that point we started knowing like we actually do not have things. We had issues of actors appearing in 2 things or 3 things, and then the guys that are giving you the contract, like the MultiChoice guys, would want this opportunity to benefit more actors and more people, but you don't really see the actors you want to put on these things. So the good thing is everyone went on to a job. Like I think there is no year like 2021 where someone comes and walks to you and tells you, I'm a filmmaker. That's what I do. There is no year like that. But again, it's a year that has stretched us and that has taught us that we actually had nothing. And I will be very happy if Patrick has all his equipment back right now and these people have bought their own equipment, because that's how we need to build an industry. When 2021 was very successful on TV, But unfortunately, this is working against the cinematic part of it, because we have a lot of things we are doing for TV. We are doing very, very, very little for cinema. So I do not expect to get a lot of Ugandans making films they want to put on cinema, because one, they're already making films for MultiChoice, which are still for TV, and of course the fact that MultiChoice is trying to bite into a pie that Netflix is trying to bite into, because it's one of the things that happened this year still. Right now, when you check Showmax, we have Prestige, we have Sanyu, we have Chapters, and then when you talk about Netflix, you already have The Girl in the Yellow Jumper on. So right now, with people looking at streaming as the other way where they could put their films, the cinema part of it is going to suffer. But talking 2022, one, I expect at least 3 Ugandan films to get on Netflix. Like, mark that number. The worst we could do could be 2, but we are getting a film on Netflix this year. At least I kind of have a very good feeling about that. And okay, I think it's not just a feeling. I'm a person of the industry, so I can be very certain that we are getting 3 films on Netflix this year. If we do badly, we are going to get 2 films on Netflix this year. What that is going to do, one, it's going to change the pricing altogether. Like, I love MultiChoice, but they need to be pushed to the edge, because they need to know that there is another big boy playing in this field. So when you have Netflix playing in the field and MultiChoice is also buying content, the way MultiChoice is going to bargain is going to be different from the way they are bargaining right now, when they are literally the only big boy around. So I expect this to be a year where people are going to demand for a lot of content. I know very many films are going to come out, very many films that are worth the name a film are going to be released. People have raised their expectations when it comes to what they expect from a Ugandan film. So people must work to satisfy that. And even the filmmakers themselves have increased their targets. You see, the beauty about having The Girl in a Yellow Jumper on Netflix is it's a Ugandan film that was done wholly by a Ugandan team. You look at the production designer, it's a Ugandan. You look at the costume designer, it's a Ugandan. You look at the person on the cinematography, a Ugandan. The editor, sound, everything was done by a Ugandan. Right now, that's a baggage for filmmakers, because now we do not have any excuse to give the world. We're not going to tell the world that apparently we are not as gifted as South Africa. Like, how? Like, we do not have the equipment. Like, why? Because, I mean, Girl in a Yellow Jumper came out, okay, was done in 2019. This is 2022. So it means, one, we've improved. I do not think any of the people that were on The Girl in a Yellow Jumper are dead. So they are still alive to do more magic. And when you pile it up on Sanyu and Prestige, you do not have any excuse to give the audience right now. One Girl in a Yellow Jumper is okay. Since I know a lot happened when they were making that film, it becomes so hard for me to know if many of the things that happened in that story were very intentional, or they kind of just worked. Like, it becomes so hard. But one, it's a film that gets all the production values very, very right. But then when it comes to the story, geez. So let's start with, there are 2 stories. There is a parallel story that's silently running behind what we think is the main story. One, many people did not see the parallel story. That's the reason why you got people saying they did not understand the film. it's not their fault. By the way, it's very okay for people not to understand films, because at times art is not meant to be understood by everyone. So what I think about the story, I think there was a story they intended to tell, and somehow they did not tell it because of issues which I cannot even know. I feel like the story leaves a lot of things non-tackled. I feel like we did not get to know a lot about the actual girl in the yellow jumper and what was okay. We got to know a bit of what was the motivation behind capturing this man, but we need to understand: was he the only person that was probably abusing young girls out there, or she was doing the same for other men that were abusing girls? Was she capturing them and treating them the same way she was treating this? And then, of course, there was that whole scene where this girl buries this person alive, and you're thinking, why are you burying a person alive? Like, why don't you just kill the person? Like, why do you bury a person alive expecting them to die? Like, and then why come back in a very short time? Like, that was like, wait, what exactly are you doing? And then we have a policeman whose character I think was symbolic of how our police handles things. I don't know if it was very intentional or that's the way he was. He was just a very, very bad cop. He was very careless. He was just like, if you just see, did he even do a search on the person he was taking, much as he had put him on handcuffs as a procedure, but did he do a full search on this person? Like, he would have noticed this person had a bag that had all these cigarette particles, which would definitely lead you to the person they were looking for. Like, did he do all this? Did he do his job? So yeah, and then, but anyway, I'll talk about the things I like. I like the complexity of the main story. I feel like we were left in that suspense where we do not know who was telling the story. It's okay, Michael Wauyo was making up his story. His character, Jim, was making up his story. But besides knowing that his character was making up his story, we are not so sure if the sister of the girl was actually telling this a true story. Like, she didn't seem so sure about her story, and then the officer did not seem to believe what she was saying. So there was that thing where we do not know which of these two stories were right, but the actual true story was that there was a killer at large that was out there, and they did a very, very good job of giving us all the information we needed to know about him, yet he wasn't presented as the main story. Like, we got to know about his story, how it kept unfolding when he was just seated there, not saying anything. Like, for me, that's what makes that film a winner when it comes to storytelling. They were deliberate about many things. Probably it would have been a very different story if they had shot it the way they wanted. In 2021, the Uganda Film Festival happened, which was a delayed edition of the 2020 festival. But besides that, okay, then PIF happened, where I happened to be a judge. Yeah, so like, you see, PIF doesn't come with money. Yeah, they do not pay per award won. So most of the time, some people do not give them their films. Like, why I say that, I know it's basically the reason they do not give them their films, because the other award has money, this one didn't have money. So I can wholly say, or I can authoritatively say, that Uganda Film Festival last year did not receive very good entries. The Uganda Film Festival, the UFF, did not receive very good entries.
Do you think filmmakers thought, like, refused to give them out? Or?
No, remember we had just come from a pandemic. You see, when you're not producing films for a festival, there are chances you will produce them for a longer time. When you're producing films for a festival, on the other hand, you're in production right now because you know the call is ending on March 20 something. So you're in production right now, trying to shoot chap because you want to be in the festival. There are more chances that you're not going to produce good work. If you're producing for the people to actually see your films, there are chances you are producing all through, and right now maybe your film is nearly done and you're not even looking at the festival whether it exists or not. Your film must still exist. So most of the people that entered their films into last year's festival had specifically produced for the festival. I remember one of the stories, okay, I won't get into victimizing people, but if you remember very well, people tried to tackle the whole issue of COVID in their story, the lockdown and everything. And with the way the industry was operating, it was going to be so hard. Most of the Ugandan industry that was literally on a lockdown for 3 full months, like on a total lockdown, it was going to be so hard for someone to pull off a lockdown film and complete it if they did not rush it. And the results were what we saw. 80% of the films we had last year at the festival, the Uganda Film Festival, were a story where the woman cried and the source of her crying was the man. Now, in most of those stories, the woman that cried was nominated for Best Actress, and the man that made her cry was nominated for Best Actor. And still, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but that's what happened. The Best Actress happened to be Stain, Joanna Gaba, fantastic actress, who unfortunately happened to cry in her own movie and was made to cry by the guy who won Best Actor, Raymond. The other nominees were Mulshid, who happened to make someone cry in a film that had themes around the lockdown and everything. And I think that person was also nominated for Best Actress. So when you look at the festival last year and what we had at the end, most of our stories were the same. Most of our stories were family dramas. Most of our stories were set in a home, which is very discouraging about the kind of stories we want to tell as Ugandans. Like, as Ugandans, there is more to what we do than just staying in a home. It's funny that 80%, not even 80, 99% of our movies are at a home. Like, you look at the movies we received at PIF, the story that ended up winning most of the awards was a Kenyan story, and it wasn't set at home. It was a war drama about these terrorists. And one thing about how Uganda is very, very strict when it comes to when you're getting into a bus, when you're getting into a building, how you're checked thoroughly. We should be able to tell stories around terrorism, around politics, because these are things we face in the news on a daily basis. And yet 80% or 99% of our stories are in a home. Look at the best film at, the best Ugandan film at PIF, My Husband's Wife, set in a home. The other film that followed that, which was Stain, set in a home. You look at the Uganda Film Festival, which was the best film there? Wasn't it Stain? But anyway, you also had Catch Out in that. Even if we had Catch Out, It was also set in a home. Like, we are refusing to think outside the home. Like, we have strong women that are working in offices and they are bosses, and there are issues that come with working in an office. Like, probably you don't get along with your manager, probably someone is trying to take your post, like that drama. But we always go and set our films in a home. So 80% of what we did was set in a home. All our Ugandan films at the festival last year were set in a home, and most of them, their story was simple. There is a man, there is a woman, then a man has a side dish. The side dish is becoming a problem to the main woman. The woman cries through the film, but then she somehow finds a way at the end of it all, or she dies at the end of it all. So basically, that's much of the story we were telling. Three things that stood out in 2021, I would actually name them as projects. I would say Sanyu, Prestige, 16 rounds. The girl in the yellow jumper was a film industry bender, but 16 rounds was a technical triumph. Like, it was a technical triumph for a film industry where people are very obsessed with which camera can I use, how do I do this. You know, that entire film was, okay, 80% of that film was done in a studio. One of the things I think I got to appreciate when I was there, why I say it was one of the most important things that happened to the film industry in 2021, was I got to get into Lukman's mind and get to know what makes him different. He writes and he shoots literally by himself. So because of that, when he's writing, he knows when not to cross his means. Like, he will not write like, then we see an aerial shot of Kaggwa Andrew when he knows he doesn't own a drone or he can't afford a drone. Like, at the moment, how many of us are working is you write a very beautiful script, and within that script you have all these things you cannot afford. You're imagining your character in a desert, and where are you going to shoot a desert from? Yeah, so like, that's one thing I got to appreciate with him. Like, I noticed that he writes within his means and within his budget, and I think it could be very important that very many of the people that are writing scripts in Uganda get a chance to do some cinematography, either even if it's for 1 week, such that by the time you're writing these things, you actually know this can be achieved, we cannot achieve this, don't get this. So instead of saying a person is in a desert, why don't I put him in a warehouse, because we can get a warehouse. So for me, it was a technical triumph. And then besides that, it was a marketing triumph. Remember, there were a couple of billboards that were put up when the film was coming out. The ads on TV, he did some good marketing, like the partnerships were good. So we need all these things. We need people to keep doing these things. And then Sanyu and Prestige. Sanyu and Prestige were those two shows that made Ugandans love watching TV for Ugandan content again. Like I've not seen people invested in shows the way they are invested in these two shows. I think the last time, yeah, there was The Hostel, then there was Deception, and then those years there was That's Life Mwatu. So I feel like we are getting back to there. And you see, the funny thing is, I've talked to very many people that watch these two shows, and you notice that some of them are not even on DSTV, but they go and watch the shows on Showmax. Like it's very amazing that Ugandans can be there and they are not afraid of their data. They'll be like, okay, I'm going to go and watch that episode at 10. using my data. So for me, that was a win. So yeah, for me, those three things defined my 2021 Sanyo, Prestige, and 16 rounds. Okay, I know very many films are in the works. That's because I'm close to the industry. I know there is a film in the works by Judith Adong. Yeah, the one who has been doing amazing theater for all those years, and it's a very interesting story. Jesus, it's an amazing story. There is another one that's being done by Esteri Tebandeke. Esteri Tebandeke, you might not know her, but she had a film at Ouagadougou last year. Ouagadougou's Fespaco. She had a short film at Fespaco last year. She's an amazing actress. Oh, to know Esteri Tebandeke has acted as the wife of David Oyelowo in Queen of Katwe. Yes, she's currently working on a film, like even as we're speaking now, she's on set. It's like I'm working on a documentary that, okay, I'm still writing the script, but it's about a popular musician who's still alive, thank God. Yeah, like for instance, how many guys actually have a media kit? Like, if a media guy comes here, I will be able to present to him that this is what my film is about. This is a synopsis. This is the cast and crew. These are their pictures. If you need pictures to be used, these are their bios. Like, we do not have all these things. Like, some people are making films that they are going to submit to UFF, but they do not even have a design of the title of that film. Like, say the film is called the Madman. It's still in their head, the Madman, but they do not have a design of this is the way this title is going to look on that screen or the poster. So they do not even have anything. They don't even have posters. So I think many filmmakers have not done their job, much as the industry is also yet to understand much as the media is yet to understand the industry as much. Though I appreciate some people that are doing it, because I mean, when people come and tell you that Lukman's next film, Damba, doesn't have a script, you think they are lying to you. But it's a film that's still being written. They've not even yet cast many of the people, but it has a poster out, and at least it has a lead and supporting actress. Like that's how people make films. That's how you create attention for your film. That's how you get media to know about what you're working on. You do not be there working in silence, and then all of a sudden you start bombarding us with this artwork, with the cast and crew.
It is premiering in 1 month.
It's premiering in 1 month, and then you want media to do magic for you. And then when they ask you a lot, you're like, you media not supporting what? So we need to check ourselves and how we are working. I defend the media because I'm the one who bashes the media when it has to be bashed most of the times. And most of the people that tend to bash the media, bashing it from an entitled point of view. Like, the media has no obligation to promote the Ugandan film industry. People are trying to inform people, and when they are informing people, most of the times it comes down to what people are interested in. Like, we cannot run away from the fact that our people love reading about musicians a lot. The only thing we have to do is to find ourselves into this conversation, which we are not doing so well. It's about the coverage, I could say. Still, the media is not doing enough. But I appreciate them not doing enough, because it would be so sad if they try to do a lot when they do not understand the industry, because then you'll be so pissed. So at the moment the media is not doing enough, but that comes down to a fact that filmmakers have not tried to get to the media. For instance, I keep asking people, like, how often does a filmmaker create a media list of people they want to talk to before their film comes out, or when they're just shooting? Like, how often has someone invited the media to their set just to see what's going on? How often have people spotlighted their cast and crew? Like, most of our filmmakers here spotlight themselves. Like, you see a director spotlighting himself, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be in that film. We'll go for 16 rounds. Prestige. Actor. There is a guy that was in My Husband's Wife. Is Sechimpi something? Yes. Pamela Keriako. Yeah. Director, I would say someone that I would not rate highly all those times, but my director would be Mariam Ndagire. Cinematographer. That's the part which people usually get wrong. Like, cinematography has to tell a story. Cinematographer, would go for Lookman. Like, truth is, my best screenplay last year did not come from Uganda. It came from Nairobi. The film was called Mission to Rescue. But besides that, there was another one which came from Nigeria. It was called Alter Ego. Alter Ego, the leader, Chris, I think is, can't remember the name, but it was well written. The way they played around with the person, with the antagonist, and had dual personalities. She was a human rights defender, but she was a human rights abuser. With Uganda, I think I had issues with the script of Blind Date. You know, some Ugandans even forget Blind Date came out last year. But Blind Date, I had some issues with it. Much as I appreciated 16 rounds, I also had my own issues with the scripting. Let me see, but you see, all those ones were actually out of the box. They were not really the home setting. Like, I personally have my own issues with home setting. Like, we've done this, we cannot be doing the same thing in 2022 or 2021. Like, we need to let it go. We need to tell other stories. But I enjoyed the script of a documentary. It's actually a short. It's called Demystifying Lifts and Laws, or something like that. And then My Prison's Diary, it's also a documentary. It is. So my best scripts from Uganda documentaries.